Good evening, everybody, and once again, welcome to the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly, and yes, it is the end of the month, it is the end of September, which means this is the final edition of RETCONVERSATIONS. So this is week 4, so all of the new 52 issues are out, and I've read almost all of them. No, I think I read all of them. I know there's some I haven't reviewed, but we're going to focus on this week's release, and or this week's releases, excuse me, and we'll hopefully try and make some sense of what's going on here. So let's kick it off. So the first thing up I want to talk about tonight is Batman: The Dark Knight. This is more or less a continuation of the previous book. Obviously, this is a completely new arc, but it's no longer David Finch writing completely on his own. He's actually brought in Paul Jenkins to co-write this series with him, which I think was a good choice. Not that Finch was a bad writer per se, it's just that he didn't really have everything that you would want or that you would expect. From kind of certainly not a flagship title, but certainly their biggest character. Because let's face it, I mean, Batman sells books, and so I mean, but the nice thing is that it leaves all the art to be done by Finch. He's doing all the art instead of bringing in other kind of look-alike artists like he did with the previous run of Batman: The Dark Knight. So, and this is definitely a step up for Paul Jenkins from his previous new DCU effort, which was the DCU Presents comic, which featured Deadman, which was just a total snooze fest. Finch gives some more really, really great art in this issue. I like that they kept that one asshole cop who is constantly harassing Gordon in the previous arc. I like that they kept that. Although we have another breakout at Arkham. It's like, really? Another breakout? But we also have another new woman for Bruce to perhaps get romantically entangled with. Whether or not she's a femme fatale like Jezebel Jet was in Morrison's run is to be determined. But I like that it kind of ties into Snyder's Batman title with the big renovation project that he unveiled there in Batman. So that was nice. This is a pretty solid outing for this comic. I wasn't really expecting a whole lot, which is probably why I got a little bit more from it. But I thought it was pretty damn good. But it had kind of a, what the fuck ending. The ending was like, really? What the hell is going on now? And this ties into the Arkham breakout and everything like that, and a rather surprising turn with Two-Face there. But overall, pretty good. Like I said, it's a good solid outing. Didn't really find too many flaws with it, except for the final page. Really, is just kind of confusing more than anything. But it gets us going and gives a good forward momentum. So I definitely say that this is definitely worth a look, and it's probably going to go in my pull box. Here's my biggest and favorite surprise of the week, which was Aquaman. Now, this is Jeff Johns doing what he does best. He is giving us some really solid, a really solid issue of comics, and it's terrific. It was a fun read. It was very entertaining. It had kind of a breezy quality to it. You know, it wasn't really overwrought as some of these comics can get to be. But it was just really good and really a lot of fun. I like how Jeff Johns has basically taken Aquaman, who has always been this kind of, and it's even talked about in this issue, he's always been kind of the subject of ridicule amongst his his peers, or in comparison to his peers, I should say. He's always had the respect of his peers, but the general public, you know, it's like, you know, you talk to fish and, you know, you swim really fast and, you know, so I mean, there are some really solid, really fun moments in this comic with that idea and just in general. You know, it takes, you know, kind of, you know, like I said, really kind of takes the inherent silliness of the character of Aquaman and really kind of turns it on his head. So, you know what? I'm a badass, and I'm here to stay. I love that he visits a seafood restaurant. How awesome was that scene? If you haven't read it, I mean, that's worth the price of the comic right there. You know, it's, you know, like I said, this kind of vibrant quality has some darker undertones, but they're undertones, which is good because I think, you know, that with, you know, how dense the character of Aquaman has been in the past, this is just, it's a really nice departure from that. It gives us something that's, we're a little bit more drawn into it, we're a little bit more entertained by it, which is not to say that, that darker comics are bad by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you know, this is me talking here. I generally like the dark stuff. I generally prefer it to the lighter stuff, but there's a difference between it being dark and working and being overwrought, you know, and that just doesn't work for me in most cases. So, you know, really, and you know, Ivan Rice, his art, just gorgeous, amazing stuff. So really, bravo to Jeff for finally putting out a really good issue for the New 52 that has his name on it. Because everything to this point has been either par, which is Justice League, or subpar with Green Lantern. So another really good issue that came out this week was Flash. It was the Flash one. Again, also breezy, entertaining, really well paced. Francis Manapoulos is his first writing gig. I'm interested, in the whole. The one thing that really caught my eye was this kind of new costume configuration. Again, it's not just this cloth that reacts to reacts to oxygen and then becomes big. It seems like it's like plated. So it kind of comes on his body and it's like all these different separate plates. So I was a little kind of confused, I guess would be the best word that I can say about that. But it still worked. It was still it was cool. I liked that idea. A little bit of what I call retconfusion, since again we seem to have a character. It doesn't say, okay, well, this takes place in, this is 5 years ago or whatever, that, Iris West is not really the love interest here. He's got another girlfriend, it seems like, but she could be a potential love interest, as the intrepid ace reporter character. So, I mean, that in and of itself, that was, again, confusing, but still, it didn't really matter overall. It wasn't something that I had an issue with. Like I said, pacing's good, art's really good. But here's something that I want to talk about for a couple minutes now, and that's the length of some of these comics. Now, some of the comics, certainly a couple that came out this week that I'll talk about, and the previous issues like Animal Man, Swamp Thing, even DC Comics Presents, of course, Snyder's Batman. They're really dense, and you get this really kind of solid feeling like, okay, well, this is definitely worth my time investing in. Well, except for the whole Deadman debacle. But this is a comic where it's like, okay, I feel that this is a comic that would normally cost $3.99. I'm getting it for $2.99, but it's dense enough. The story is the comic is really jam packed with information that isn't just exposition, except in the case of the Deadman story by Jenkins. But the density works. And then there are some comics, for instance, like The Flash, and like a lot of the comics of the New 52, that seem really short. This is one of those. This was another one of those where it's just like, okay, wow, this went by really quick. I guess when it's better, the density, the kind of lack of density is a problem. When it's bad, nobody gives a shit. But to me, I guess what I'm seeing here is that they're trying really hard to put out the quantity. They're really focusing on quantity and not necessarily quality. I mean, obviously quality is going to be is not going to be an issue with certain writers and certain books, at least you kind of hope. And or you want to see the art more, so on and so forth, but it still just feels too compacted. Like they just, like a lot of the stuff just feels I shouldn't say a lot. Some of it just really feels phoned in. Some of the titles are completely unnecessary. And there's just like a lack of time being given, a lack of pages or something to that effect, that some of these comics, they deserve more. Like I said, the shit ones, it doesn't matter to me. But the good ones are the ones that could be better if they had more. That's where it has. That's an issue for me. So whether or not this particular instance, or I should say this trend continues, well, that would be something that we'll look into more as the weeks go on. Hopefully that this is just kind of like freshman jitters as far as these #1 issues are concerned, and that yes, they will dedicate, the comics will be a little bit longer, a little bit more thought out, and just they have a little bit more density and a little bit more weight to them, as opposed to just feeling very like it's like it's lighter than air, so that is one thing that I did really want to talk about. So we're gonna take a quick break right now, but we'll be back after the jump with more to talk about. So stay tuned.